millions of people saw that Russian propaganda videos with you, definitely staged, edited, meant to humiliate. And could you tell us, please, what was behind the scene? How did they force you to admit things you have never done and had nothing to do with you?
Well, first of all, I mean, the first thing to do is initialise you. They torture you. This is the worst it's going to be. They're going to electrocute you, stab you. They're going to beat you daily, stick you in an isolation cell, not let you get any sleep, make you sign confessions, and then they're going to do all the nasty stuff. When I got my indictment papers, it said I was in court and on the Russian system from about the 18th and 19th of April. I was captured on the 13th of April. For those days, they were deciding what to do with me. And that was where I was at the black site, you know, going through all those interrogations, the electrocutions on the ear, the starvation, the isolation cell, the threats we're going to kill you, until at some point somebody said, well, we're going to put him on trial. So they could have done anything to me, but somewhere along the line, I had some value. They wanted to exchange me. And
for Medvedchuk.
For Medvedchuk. I think we got a good deal, actually. We got 150 Ukrainians out for Viktor Medvedchuk and 55 Russian officers. So in the end of the day, they wanted some people. And that's the only reason I'm alive, is because they wanted Viktor Medvedchuk. So I had no doubt they would have shot me at some point if they didn't think they could get Viktor Medvedchuk.
But you never told them on camera things that they wanted you to say.
It was weird. The questioning wasn't the tactical question I thought would come. Like I said, they're pushing a narrative. What they want you to say is that, you know, they want to tell people that you are a Nazi. So in captivity, if you hold your ground a bit and if you don't cave in and you take the knocks, eventually they just sort of give up with you. They're pushing that narrative. They're not going to beat you down. It's not like the movies where they say, tell us what you know, electrocute you, you know, because it doesn't work. I mean, if their line of questioning was, you know, you work with Elvis, I'm probably going to tell them if they're electrocuted, yeah, I've seen him, he works with me every day. It just doesn't work. But what they want you to do is torture enough that you eventually just go, yeah, I'm a Nazi, I'm a mercenary, I'm a terrorist. And that's what they want to do, because then you're in the system. And then you're just going to, they don't exchange you, go to Gulag for 20 minutes, or they're going to shoot you.
But that's not happened to you.
No responsibility. No, because they wanted someone. And that's it. That's the only difference. We've still got guys who weren't born in Ukraine in captivity now. But they're not getting the same where they are. Why they're not being exchanged, who knows?
Who knows, yes. Well, I was reading that they were making a scene when you were eating on cameras. Is that true?
Oh, yeah.
Because actually the only food you had was a dirty water and bread.
Yeah.
Nothing else for months. So
we were really quick to understand that once I realised I had some value, if they wanted an interview, I became, you know, if I wanted a cigarette, I could get it. Or and I'd try my arm and get a burger. And they'd film me, look, we're treating him, look, we're giving him a burger. And the fact that I looked like so skinny by the time I got to trial, even though they filmed me eating a burger, it was just like back to the same people that were beating you in the black site, which is, for those that don't know, black site is an area or a filtration camp that you don't know where it is. It's underground, you don't know where you are. It's off the record, it's off the books. So the same people that were doing the camera work were behind the camera, were the guys beating me in the black site. So you couldn't, because if you said anything that they didn't like, they would just take you back to the black site and beat you again. So you had to be very diplomatic about how you talk to the cameras. And I'd had lots of experience with, propaganda training and talking to cameras and media work anyway. So, I had to be very careful. But when you reply to an answer, you can't, you have to be very careful about what you say, because one of the things I nearly called them was, separatist, terrorist. You can't say that, or I'm not a terrorist, because one of the questions we had was one of the interrogators came in and just sort of said, would let you ring your home, and they would tell you that, my mum would tell me, we've talked to Hostage UK, and after the call, the guy would go, Hostage UK. And I said, yeah, Hostage UK. Who are they? And I don't know who they are. He said, what do they think we are? Terrorists. And you can't just say, well, I'm a hostage now. You're trying to, I'm not a POW. You're trying to exchange me. Technically, I'm a hostage now. So you have to be, and they're asking you these questions. What do they think we're terrorists? What do I say? It's how do I get out of that? So it is. You have to be a bit diplomatic. It tests your political skills, and you have to but if you can build a rapport, and sometimes, like in the book, I said that there's some jokes about cigarettes. This guy still offers me a cigarette, and I say, yeah, I'd love a cigarette. He said, sorry, but they're like the worst Russian kind of cigarettes. And I said, I don't care. They could be from Uganda for all I know. And he tells his mate, and his mate starts laughing. You're trying to build a rapport or try and understand that you're no threat. And at some point, they made a decision that I wasn't someone who was of interest. And then eventually, they moved me to Makivka, 19 Sim, and life got a bit easier. And I was thrown in with other Westerners who were captured too.
At what moment your family, your wife, your mother, your son realized you were in a captivity? What was that, a video or?
I don't know really. Afterwards, when I got out, I started to piece things together. They were told I was dead like 3 or 4 times. They'd found my passport. Before they caught me, they found some identity documents. Because when they moved in, they went into the bases. They went into the offices in Mariupol. They pulled out all the contracts and the information. So generally, they knew who was around in that area. So they were starting to put documentation about me saying he's dead, and it was all on social media. My family was attacked on social media saying he's dead, and my nieces were attacked on there saying that he's dead. They were sending them messages through Facebook and trying to track my family down. So they thought I was dead several times before suddenly I popped up on an interview, I think it was about the 20th of April, where a very well-known Russian propagandist, not a journalist, but a Russian propagandist, was in the prosecutor's office filming me. So, straight away, they were in there with the propaganda and the trial by public opinion, like I said, long before I ever got to court. And
when you were held by its so-called Donetsk People's Republic, those Russian-backed people, separatists, they were saying that Ukraine have fallen, that Ukraine is already under Russia, and etc. Did you have any doubts it is true, or you had this gut feeling that some intuition that they are lying?
No, I didn't. For the first 2 or 3 weeks, I didn't. There was an English guy came in, and for 2 or 3 weeks, after I was captured, there was just me and eventually a couple of Ukrainians. And the story goes is that they were making so much progress at that early stage that we had no idea if there was going to be a Ukraine. We didn't know if they were folded, they were fighting back. So for 2 or 3 weeks, the main conversation was, how am I going to get out of this? Because if there's no Ukraine, it's all going to be Russia. How am I going to get out? And then another prisoner came in next door, a guy called Paul Yuri. Unfortunately, he was beaten to death in prison. But when he first came in, he said to me, I took up...
The one with the diabetes?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And I plucked up the courage to talk to him after a couple of days and just sort of said, hey, do you know what's going on? And he says, no, Ukraine's fighting back. He said, we sunk the Moskva. And he said, no, there's loads of guys. There's foreigners coming in, bundles of them. He said, they've stopped, they've stalled. And we were like in the cell. And there's a camera watching you in the cell. And we were in the cell. And I'll tell you what, even the goosebumps now, it sends up. Because we were like, yeah, come on. We're fighting. It's not a rollover. But for 2 or 3 weeks, we didn't know how it was. But that information was really critical to, when you're at the bottom, to pick you back up and think, we're going to get out of this. They're fighting.